In this session, we're going to look at some principles to help you get started straight away with applying the Agile mindset. We're taking the information from the Agile Mindset infographic, which you see in front of you here. If you want some more information about this, you want to see the full infographic, go to coreypartnership.com/agile-mindset. In there is the infographic itself, plus a document which explains how we approach each of the different elements, each of the different domains of the Agile mindset. So first of all, the focus of any work that we do needs to be on the customer. We need to be focusing on customer-centric outcomes. It's whatever we're doing needs to be for them primarily. And if we're focused on them and we understand what their needs are, then we can actually build something that makes sense for them and something that they'll use and hopefully pay for. To achieve this, then, we need clarity and context. And this is where leadership in Agile is so important, to provide that clarity and context over the outcomes that we are working towards. And there's a lot of information about how to achieve that and ways of doing that. And we'll be talking a lot more about that in future videos. The next thing that's really important is to think about collaboration. Now, we should be collaborating with each other within the team. We should be collaborating with the leaders of our organization. We should be collaborating with other teams within the organization. But also, we should be collaborating with vendors. We should be also collaborating with our users. So really, we're looking for that total collaboration idea to come forward as part of our Agile mindset. When we're doing those things, then we need to be adaptable, because as we get information from having these conversations, we're going to need to change what our approaches may be and what we're doing. So being adaptable is absolutely critical to an Agile mindset. And finally here then, on this part of the infographic, the focus on value. We don't want to be focused on tasks. We don't want to be focused on outputs. We want to be focused on outcomes that deliver value to the customer. Let's look at this in a little bit more detail then. Some more bits of information coming up on here. So what we have up there is inspect and adapt. So if we're going to be adaptable, we want to be able to inspect and adapt. And we want to be as pragmatic as possible. We obviously want to focus on simplicity, so make sure that we're not over-engineering things, we're not over-complicating whatever it is that we're doing. And in order to help achieve that, transparency is absolutely key. Now, what we recommend that you do, by the way, is there's a lot of information coming at you right now, I can see that. But the best way to do this is to take one of these items and apply that to the next thing. Play with it a little bit, get to know it, and then move on to the next one. So maybe you start with clarity and context. Maybe you start with collaboration. It doesn't really matter. Start with one, apply that, and then once that becomes second nature, then start to apply the other one. The same applies for anything else on here. One thing that I like to do is I like to always remind people to think big, start small, but act now. Get moving immediately, because if we overplan things, we overthink things, we may miss an opportunity, and we may lose momentum as well. Whereas if we get started, at the moment we get started, we can start to get feedback, we can start to learn what it is that we are moving towards, and we can start adjusting our course for that. One of the important things with Agile is to deliver early and to deliver often or iterate often. So get something out as soon as we can in front of a user so that they can use it and they can give us feedback, and then we can start to iterate on that. The other thing on this slide I would focus on is the idea that 80% of the value will typically come from around 20% of the features. So can we focus on delivering the 20% of features, those 20% of features first, and then we can move on to the rest and see what it is that we want to do with that. So just a few more little things to think about just to finish off then. In terms of clarity, context, and collaboration, one thing that is important is verbal interactions, verbal communications. We need to talk to each other. Yes, we use emails and we use texts and so forth, and documents and presentations where appropriate. But most of the time, we really need to get back to thinking about having a verbal communication, because that's when we can pick up on the nuances and we will avoid making some big mistakes. The other thing we want to focus on is a fast feedback loop and therefore short cycles. The reason we focus on small sprints, a sprint is a period of time during which the work is done. We're focusing on small sprints, short sprints, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, so that we can get feedback as fast as possible, and then we can adapt, we can iterate, we can actually simplify things and so forth. It's all, okay, you can see hopefully this mindset thing is all linked. And finally then, just something to leave you with, is focus on a working solution. At the end of every sprint, at the end of every period of time that we're doing some work, we want to get something out that we can put in front of the user that has value to them, no matter how small that might be. And we'll be looking at that. If you look at the video called iterative and incremental, that's the one, iterative and incremental, that will then give you some ideas on what we mean by that. One of the focuses here needs to be on pilots and experiments. We're not always going to know exactly what we're working towards. Even if the vision seems quite clear, there will be nuances that we need to unpack. So think about everything that we're doing in terms of a pilot and an experiment. If it works, then that's the thing that we do. If it doesn't, then we can try again. And also, focus on making things as simple. By simplicity, we mean making things as small as possible. So take something into a sprint, take something into the next period of time that we're going to do some work, make it as small as possible so that it can be delivered within that period of time. So just some ideas there. Again, pick one or two to work with to start with. Don't try and cram all of this out at the same time, but just give you some ideas there to get started with applying an agile mindset.